Actually, there's something to be said about pin cushions also. And mostly it has to do with just consideration of the next devotee that has to deal with it. Especially when you're undressing deities at night. You know, when you're undressing the deity at night, it's hard for everybody to see without actually. Maybe it's better to come.
Yeah, just come out. I think everybody should cover all of it.
We need a line. We need a line going across. Going across the top, and 2 or 3 lines coming down the back. And then start from the pointed side. The pin should go with the head outward in the point in. Then start from the pointed side and do like a figure 8, like this, 2 or 3 times. Like that. And then push the pin. And make sure when you push the pin in that it doesn't, that kind of locks it. You push the pin into the head, jams up against the figure 8. And then this is short enough, but sometimes something to remember is that sometimes if the string is extra long, like see this is a long string, you need a long string usually for hanging the garland, because sometimes if you're gonna swing the garland, then you also want to swing the jewelry. So you want to catch the garland, and then in order to get the jewelry going in the same direction, if you're going to do that, then you can go up a few strands of jewels with the same string. But in any case, from wrapping it around pins and this and that, and it ends up looking like a piece of spaghetti coming off of off the cloth or whatever, that's a no-no. The camera sees that kind of thing, so you should always dress as if the picture of your deity is going to be circulated worldwide, and everyone's going to see, what kind of fools we are, by leaving unsightly things like that, hangings, pieces of spaghetti hanging. So, if there's any like when you're using a line for the garland, then when you get to the end of it, you have to push the end of the string inside, behind. So similarly, when you're hanging anything, whether it's the dhoti, or whether it's a chadar, or whether it's Radharani's veil or dress or whatever, that if there's extra string left over, then the best thing to do is to pull the string up behind, and you have to use another pin usually, and just pin it so that it doesn't flop down. That way it looks clean. The whole thing should look very clean. You want as little distraction as possible, and it's best to use as little strings as possible. The least strings, the better. But you have to do the needful. So sometimes you have to use a few strings. So you don't want to be too shy about using strings. But you should keep in mind. Another point to remember is that it's always best is Radha and Krishna's Yugal, Milan, that kind of mood, because they are having that relationship, so they can be attached to each other. But Gaur Nitai shouldn't be attached to each other. It's not that you should pin the dhotis together and stuff like that. It shouldn't be done.
What about pinning the chadars?
Huh? Yeah, it shouldn't be done. No, it should be independent. At least that's the instruction I remember from the very beginning of my training.
Chaitanya Chakravarti does it all the time.
And also, as far as Gaura is concerned, their crowns, you can remember, they usually use these like mango crowns.
Yes.
Huh? So this is what you have to remember on Gaura. See this? The crown is going this way, in.
Yes.
Gaura's crown is going toward Nityananda, and Nitya's crown is going toward. You just hold your fist up and you'll remember which way the mango should be going. That's the standard for Gaura worship. They shouldn't be going the other way. Anyway, these are other topics of discussion, but maybe in the future we'll have some Gaura deities and maybe some other deities also, so that we can. Because like I was hearing when they were introducing themselves that most of them are not actually worshiping Radha and Krishna. Many of them have the Gaura or Jagannath like that. So, but anyway, these are still some basic ideas that you can apply to any deity worship. And as far as the Gaudiya Sampradaya is concerned, in the matter of turbans or crowns for Krishna. At least this is what I've learned from the jewelers in Vrindavan, which I assume they know what they're talking about. They say that in the Gaudiya Sampradaya, in the Parakya Ras, the gold mukut, that's the round mukut. And Krishna's a cocky kind of guy, so he's not straight up and down like Narayan. He doesn't have a peacock feather boinking off the top of his head. Or everything straight up and down. He's a little tilty, he's a crooky, kind of guy. So he has, as Karma Chaitanya was saying, an asymmetrical, aspect to his appearance, and a lot of that is seen in the way that the turban is being decorated. So this gol mukut, or the large piece, there's usually a large piece and a small piece. So the large piece, when there is a large piece and small piece, large piece will be going toward Radharani. And the peacock feather is also going toward Radharani. Peacock fan may be on one side, but there should always be a peacock feather, so that, because as far as I remember, I can't remember where I read it, sorry to say, but I remember that Chandradev became the ankle bracelets, and Suryadev became the peacock feather in order to have the opportunity to always see the feet of Krishna. So the peacock feather should be this side, jauntily cocked over his left ear, and this is described also in relationship to Lord Chaitanya. Is that Lord Chaitanya, although there's sometimes a hubbub about Lord Chaitanya not wearing peacock feather, but in many there's scriptural evidence that Lord Chaitanya wears a peacock feather jauntily cocked over his left ear.
What about Lord Nityananda?
Lord Nityananda, Prabhupada said that any Vishnu Tattva can wear a peacock feather. But anyway, and as far as Krishna Balaram is concerned, they can be dressed differently because they're different people. They don't have to be dressed exactly the same, correspondingly. You can have a different turban set up or any such things. So anyway, the main point that, can we hang a few strings here? So here, the thing about pin cushions that I wanted to make, the point I wanted to make about pin cushions, is that usually you have big pins and small pins. So for the benefit of the next pujari, to make it easier for the next pujari, when you're undressing the deities, is a very, very simple thing to do, but many devotees just don't seem to get it, and they make a mismatch, which is very, difficult to deal with. But it's a very easy thing to do, because you can very easily feel whether you have a big head or a small head between your fingers. You don't even have to look to see how you're doing it. You know where your pin cushion is, and there's a right side to your pin cushion and a left side to your pin cushion. So you put, according to your convenience, you put the small pin in the left side, and the big pin in the right side, or vice versa, however. Or, and, so you keep your paraphernalia separated enough so that it's easily accessible, and so that the next guy doesn't have to, put up with our ignorance. Life is very cruel, very cruel. So expert means being able to do something difficult quickly. So in order to become expert, you have to actually develop your speed and do things very quickly. No, I wasn't going to actually. Missed this time. Also, the thing is, we need on Radharani's side, we need extra lines here. Like on Radha Madhav's altar is so huge and big that you can't get lines from different directions. But if you have a smaller altar set up like this, then you can bring it down lower. Put one, tie one here and then. See, I never use them. See what happens. This is a good example of what happens if you use a line from the top. Everything goes weird. So I prefer that instead of having everything look like looks like she's flying over somewhere or something. So it's better to have. Let's have. I need some strings. I need 2 strings. I always take it from a lower angle, so that it ends up looking more like this. Can you put maybe 2 more over here? And usually also, in Govinda Lilamrita, there's a statement about how Krishna experiences ecstasy, and the reason why his foot is coming over like this is because he wants to touch Radharani's dress with his feet. So it says that he experiences great ecstasy when he touches her dress like that with her feet. So I usually have to hold it up there with this one's not so bad, but you have to hold it up there with a piece of blue tack, put some blue tack. Another thing about blue tack, which is important, is that you should always remember that blue tack has a tendency to collect dirt over time. So, if ever you have to use blue tack to put on any jewelry or in any way for anything, especially when it's related to the cloth, the pujari has to be very, very, very thoughtful to remove the blue tack with each time that you dress or undress the deities. You don't want to have what I see happening a lot, unfortunately, is that mindless devotees, they have a tendency to leave all the blue tack here and there, and just like even right here, there's a little piece of blue tack here. You see? So it makes it look smudgy, and you may be able to cover it, but it may get to the point where you're not going to be able to cover it. And why would you want Radharani to have blue tack all over her cloth anyway? So it's a very easy thing to do. And you take a bigger piece of blue tack, make sure that it's kind of sticky, and then press it on wherever the blue tack is located, and dab it off, pull it off. You have to pull it off so that that's very important. Sometimes you need, especially on her breast area, it's necessary to in order to keep the necklace from rolling off the side. You may have to use a little glue tack on the outer.
So you're going to use pins then?
Well, no, not on the jewelry. No pins. But on the garland, at least Rambhadra, his idea was that, and I use that idea, although it's a little risky, because it's so close to her breast, but if you learn the technique, then there's no problem. But you can take a pin from here, and usually I use a bigger pin. And you have to just catch the cloth like this down here, so that, and put it through into a flower, like the back of a flower, so that the garland doesn't roll off to the side. Like that, because generally for the public, you don't want to expose Radharani too much. That's why she usually, because in most pictures you will see that Radharani's wearing a choli. She's not wearing a full blouse, you know. So, but for the public, just to keep the the lust of people down, at bay. So then we have to cover them, significantly. Now you put a little blue tack here, but then make sure the blue tack comes off. Or make sure, whoever's undressing at night should be mindful. Because there's two aspects of dressing the deity, and that's one is dressing and the other is undressing. Actually, if you have the opportunity to undress deities who are being dressed by more experienced people, you can learn a lot about that also. Just by seeing, you can, because you have to undo what they did, and then you can figure out what they've done. And probably the best way is when because right now we're going through step by step, and we're only going to be able to show you a little something. But if you have the opportunity, I don't know how many of you will have the opportunity. I mean, this is why we're having it here now. But it's nice to see pujaris who know what they're doing in action, because they get inspiration as they're doing it, and new things can come out, and you can catch different ideas, as they're unfolding, their seva. Okay, so do we have a string here? I need two strings and a front string. So the back string I use for the general idea is back strings are for things in the back, and front strings are for things in the front. So here I'm going to pull it out like that. Where's the other string? And this is what I do. Because to me, this looks kind of like a little floppy, So I use this is a little short, but I use a second one to pull this front out a little like this, so that her whole dress can look like it's swishing, like that. When you're in a pinch for time, then certain steps can be omitted legitimately. And one thing about this is another point, which is a good thing to demonstrate here, Just see how it's pinned like that? Now, what do you see there? You see the backside, showing front ways. So you want to avoid that. So that's not to be done. So to avoid that, pin it a little lower. That's better. Still showing. And you have to check sometimes. You have to get down and look to see whether you see it, because sometimes from this angle you're not going to see that the back is shown because this is blocking it. So then you might have to check it.
Did you put the pin on horizon or vertical?
No, it's going toward the
Okay.
not this way. See? From out to in.
How to
Most pujaris do all the pinning the very last, based on time and whatnot, or do you
No,
personally, do you see a lot of pujaris doing the pinning before all
No,
the jewelry?
it should be done before. Yeah, what you do is first you pin the cloth. Aside from her ankle bells and her, so because you don't want, once you pin the cloth, see, this is the point, is once you pin the cloth, you don't want to have to go under here, to mess everything up. So first you pin the cloth. Even sometimes, see, if the dress is longer, you can even bring some extra around, so that it looks like she's twirling. We can maybe demonstrate that in another day or so. But for now, we're just going to do it. Okay. So shutter. There's many ways to hang the chadar.
What about the sash?
Oh yeah, the sash. Where do we have cloth for the sash? Thank you. Depending on what kind of material the sash is made out of, this is a little stiff, so you can do things with this that you may not be able to do with other things. There's different ways of doing the sash. Generally, you don't want it to come down too low, but you don't want it to be too high either. So if it comes just right under his buttocks, a little bit, maybe just a little below the buttocks, like that, but not way down or close to his knee. So there's different ways you can do it from this angle, depending on how you're going to hang the garland, and depending on how you want to hang it up. You can either do it like this, and the way I usually do it is I put this one over, and the one that comes closer to the center, whether it's from one side or the other side, the one that comes closer to the center, I usually make shorter than the ones that's further away. And you have to see that in terms of what happens after you've crossed. And I usually just fix it. There's different ways of doing it. This is the quick and easier way to do it.
spin it up.
You have to be careful though. Put your finger behind it so that you get it instead of him. and then you have to push it. You have to be careful not to let the pin bend. Because like sometimes when you put some pressure on it to get leverage, pin will actually bend, and then if you force it through, then it can scratch the deity. You know, so there's different ways of dealing with this also. I don't personally like to see the cloth just flopping, you know. But either there's ways of fanning it out a little like this, or you can gather it together and like give it a little ruffle. This is an interesting thing to see, though. How to do this? You're going to have to come closer for this. Make it look like it's kind of like ruffling. You have to take it like this, bunch it together a little. There's different ways of doing it. Tight is kind of nice though, because it gives. You can do it loosely or you can do it tight. Sometimes tight is nice because it allows the dhoti to be seen more. If it's a big piece of cloth and it's done really loose, then it can cover a lot of his form. So. I usually use a big pen for this, a bigger, longer size pen, because you have to go through from the back. You have to go through all the way through to the front, and sometimes just before the front. Like see here, but you have to then go back through. But the back has to extend long enough. You see. So that you can go back through the back, and that locks it. Because if you just go like this and then miss the back part, then it comes undone.
Right.
You see? So you pull this down a little further, and come like this. Go through, and then back through into the same back piece. And then you can do it again. Yeah. Depending on what kind of cloth, it's going to take different shapes.
And you have to use soft chiffon, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, soft chiffon sometimes for this kind of thing. Yeah. Push it through, and then back through. And it gives it kind of like a...
Where did you put the pin here up? Like where and in which direction?
No, depending on which side.
Here, no, here on this part.
Here, because it's on this side, it goes in that direction. If it's on this side, it goes in that direction. See, so
and the point is there.
yeah, see, so this is crossed over, and put your pin through till it touches your finger, and then push. You have to push out to get the pin to go this direction, because otherwise if you don't push out, it's going toward the deity. So push out a little, and it makes it easier to redirect the pin outward so that it comes out through. See it's coming through, but you don't want to see it coming through. So, but once it's come through, then you back it up a little bit and let it go behind the first layer, so that the first layer cloth is covering it. And the same thing for here, but there's not as much cloth here, so you're not going to be able to do it as many times. Sometimes you do it, 2 or 3 times. Sometimes only. Anyway, there's different things to do. I'll just show a few things as well. Keeping it so that it looks round. So, instead of just putting the belt, across, especially if it's summertime and he's not wearing a shirt like now, then you want his navel to show.
you don't want to put the dhoti on so that it covers over the navel. So usually there's like a little indented area where his koppan starts. So then you put let the dhoti follow that indented area instead of putting it around his waist. You know? So that's showing, and that can be done in such a way that it's looking a little round. And because Shyam has this hip action, you know, like this. So because he's dancing to try to get her attention, you know, he has to work hard for his money.